P realizes his house has appreciated over $1 million since March. Can you say gold? Nah. That's what's next on today's show. Trading Forex or any other financial instrument carries substantial risk. The topics discussed on this show are the views of the host and the producers only. You should consult with your financial planner before investing in Forex or any other financial instrument. Don't be a dumbass.
Welcome to the Day Trading Plumber, episode 48. I'm Matt Simpson, but you're not here for me. Did you go fishing?
Yeah, spent yesterday on a boat.
Must be nice.
Yeah, it just timed perfectly with launching the course. I was like, I'm getting out of here. But yeah, went up to 3-hour drive, dropped the boat around 8:30 in the morning. Got on the water, didn't get any bites right away, but be honest with you, I bought a new pole and rod and reel, and I've never tried one of those new like bait caster ones. So it's not like the closed reel. You know what I'm talking about. I don't know if I'm getting.
Of course I do.
So I buy one of those, spent a good $100 on it, so it's not like too cheap. And I stringed it, decent line. And first cast, it spools up, right? You know how like if the spool doesn't stop, it's like, oh. So I dropped my other line down just with some bait, bounced it off the bottom, and was like 3 or 4 feet off the bottom while I was trying to fix the reel. And the guy I went with, he's a diehard fly fisher. So he's got his Willy Booger and, the Chironomid or whatever flies. He's trying over there. He's not getting any bites either. And, good portion of the first hour and a half, I'm messing with this reel. And I get it going again. Next cast. Well, it turns out I have one of the settings wrong on it. So I eventually get it to where it's okay. And I'm using a spinner on that reel. And I was just going to throw some power bait down with the other reel and just see what happens. So now we're 2 hours in. No one's caught fish. We see fish all over the fish finder. We're right on a shelf, so there's really no reason. But we move. We go to this other spot at the lake that he knows. Again, it's another shelf, plenty of fish on the fish finder. And then I just say, screw the new pole. I'm going to do what I always do. I like to sink power bait to the bottom and then pull it about a foot or two off the bottom and pull it up a shelf, missing all of the, just kind of like you're trolling it. And boom, hit like a 14-inch. And, Tom, the guy I'm with, is like, well, at least we didn't get skunked. And then next cast, boom, boom. And I'm just pulling them in. Probably 10 casts, 8 fish. And he's over there going, well, you're fishing with power bait. That's cheating. And I'm like, really, dude? Like, I go, I get it. It's kind of like cheating, but I'm still catching fish, dude. It's fun. I mean, you're a fly fisher. Is power bait cheating?
Absolutely, it's cheating.
So if I go on like a fly fishing Facebook group and I'm like, hey guys, I threw some power bait on my hook and just knocked him dead.
If you don't get insta-banned for saying that, that's not a real fly fishing group.
Really? It's that strong of a...
Yes. I have a more important announcement to make.
What?
This week is the 30th anniversary of one of the best albums of all time. 1990.
1990? I should know this.
Well, you won't, so don't worry about it. A little album from a band out of Texas called Cowboys from Hell by Pantera.
Cowboys from Hell. Is that their breaking out album?
I think they did a little dance disco lighter rock thing earlier.
Really?
Yeah,
Pantera.
Before they turned into the Pantera that we know and love, well, that I know and love. And phenomenal album. instant for me, just resonated my little 9-year-old heart.
Are you going to put a link on the show notes?
No, our listeners know who Pantera were. Anyway, rest in peace, Vinnie Paul, and rest in peace, Dimebag Darrell. Dimebag Darrell and President Kennedy were both assassinated by former Marines. Just putting that out there. Doesn't mean anything. We're just a cranky bunch. I'm just putting that out there.
So, do you think there's even a dime bag anymore with inflation and, you know?
Oh, you mean curb serving?
Yeah, I mean, dime bags are,
and the fact that it's legalized now?
So, well, yeah, it'd be like, give me a dime bag. I mean, would that be like the dust that's on the table after you roll a joint?
I don't know. I've never done a narc in my life, bud.
Never, really?
Nope.
So, like, when you go to the dentist...
I was never cool enough to get invited to that crowd.
When you go to the dentist, they only have to give you, like, one shot and your whole mouth's numb.
Yeah.
Because, like, when I go, they're like, oh, wow, you have a really high tolerance for narcotics. And I was like, well, my 20s were a blur. But I had gold-plated caps at one time.
Really?
Which is the topic of the show.
Is it?
They'd be worth a lot more today than they were back then. I mean, gold, how can you not talk about gold right now?
Thursday night, $1,886.37 to the U.S. dollar.
Yes,
and
now.
That is the XAUUSD.
If you didn't know. With a decent support level at 1477, which was a perfect support play, by the way, during March, right? If you remember when COVID happened, there was a lot of talk about gold, the safe haven, and no one could figure out why it was just falling. I think we even talked about it on the show. I was like, we're in some really weird times where the U.S. dollar, we're printing money, giving it away.
Which is devaluing the currency.
Right. Thank you, Webster.
Also inflating away the debt, which is why they do it.
Right. But gold was dropping. I mean, I'm looking at the chart here. We had 12 days in a row of bearish on gold as this is happening. Now, it's easy to see now on the chart. It was a fake out and it followed technical analysis, hit a support at 1400 and, some change.
But remember that we have our theory on that. Do you remember?
Yeah, our theory is maybe gold won't be the obvious safe haven in the next recession or follow the same technical path that it has in all the other economic stresses we've had in America.
But one of the things that we pointed out in March with that 12-day bearish run was that people were liquidating.
Right, they're liquidating.
They were losing jobs. They still have bills to pay. Remember that discussion?
Right. They were liquidating their long-term trades for cash and, surviving. Not necessarily buying milk, but surviving, hedge funds were taking off their long play gold and possibly handing it to their prop trading desks for the quick intraday moves, right? A lot of people made a lot of money in this. Volatility makes day traders hard-ons. I think I missed a word there. Gives them hard-ons. Because they live for those kind of trading days.
They live for the violence.
Right. They live for...
Just like a Michelin chef in a kitchen. Lives for the violence, the heat, the pressure.
Right. I mean, if stocks are moving 16% a day, these guys are loving life. These guys look for 3 points at a time, right? And stocks are moving 14, 16, 17% in a day. That was our theory on the gold. But once we start seeing the V-shaped recovery in equities, then the economic law takes over, right? I say this all the time when I'm interacting social media with people. Economic law, up until currently, has always surpassed any political regime, any idea we could come up with. Economic law always wins. the laws of supply and demand eventually take over. We could alter it. We could delay it. It's just like this massive amount of accumulating debt the world is doing. There's not enough resources on earth to pay off the debt every country has with the current price of these so-called resources. It's almost like this untalkable subject. Well, how much oil at the current price would it take to pay off what are we at? 24 trillion? Getting ready to add another 3 more here.
USDebtClock.org. $26.5 trillion.
And we're getting ready to add 3.5 more if we pass this next stimulus bill. Now, what's crazy is that's just the U.S. You take China, you take all these other countries' debt.
Right now, we just accrued another $1 million in debt. Go on.
Oh, just in that second.
Well, it was a few seconds.
So would you just have this free run? And here's the thing. When you classify something as debt, it means it's to be paid off. It's to be, someone's going to pay it off.
All debts are paid either by the creditor
or the debitor
or the debtor.
Debtor. And if it's not, the universe flips upside down. The South Pole becomes the North Pole, and compasses don't work anymore. Economically, that's about the equivalent of what would happen. So we all just kind of turn the other cheek. And like when I talk to people on the street, why don't they just give us 90, all this money? And I'm like, as a do-gooder in society, I feel like I'm a do-gooder. I pay my taxes. I work hard. I never have asked for free handouts.
You're adding to the gross domestic product.
Right. So as a do-gooder, and fellow do-gooders should have this fear as well, we will be the ones that pay it back. Some way, some fashion, either through taxes, either through the devaluation of all of our assets. Because like I was explaining to someone today, well, they're getting ready to print another $3.5 trillion. How much of that's going to trickle down to us people? Right? Because it's a good point. Because a lot of this stimulus packages, $40 million for schools and just a bunch of stuff. One of the best ones I thought of is, how about you just quit taking payroll tax?
That's actually proposed, is to lower payroll tax again.
Right. Or just cancel it until we can open again. Just don't take the money and then pretend to give it back. Just don't take it. Because then you're not causing a debt. You're just not bringing it in. Now, you also got to cut costs if you're not making as much revenue, like any normal business. Every other business through this COVID is dealing with the reverse, right? We're not making revenue. We have to cut costs. Therefore, lost jobs, and we got to get more efficient. True economic law. Printing money and just giving it away. And just on the forethought that down the road, we're going to be better than we are today. I mean, then that's basically what debt is you're borrowing from your future self. That's like when I ask someone, I really deserve this car. Do you? Is it worth the next 6 years of your life?
5 years.
Well, you could guess 6-year loan now.
72 months, huh?
Yeah. I've even heard of 7-year loans now. And if it's a motorhome, you could put a 30-year loan on it.
Well, that's different.
That's how they've tricked us all into be like, buy a motorhome. It's only $150 a month. And it's $200,000.
I remember when gas was ridiculous and they were still pushing motorhomes. I just thought, what are you doing? What? Like, that's the exact opposite what I would be doing. I'd be doing more walking.
Americans just love spending. We've
talked about how we have a spending problem.
We've been marketed to, we've been brainwashed. I mean, call it whatever you want, but we feel good when we buy stuff. That's what drives markets, is the American consumer. Us speculators in the market. There was some talk today on some stocks solely based not on today's earnings, but next quarter's spending habits. That's why, the consumer metrics that come out weekly is a big deal, or quarterly. Oh, the consumers are happy. Buy. This run on gold was predictable, but I want to talk about the levels we're at now. So just like we said with Bitcoin and all these other things, when all the idiots on Facebook, I'm buying gold. When your grandma calls you, this run on gold, the move, in my opinion, has happened. Outside of more deaths, more fear, but this bullish run on gold is solely based on this anticipation this other stimulus package is coming. I feel like it's priced in. Maybe not fully yet, but if you look at a monthly chart on gold versus US dollar, we are hitting the highs of the 2008, the last economic pandemic that we had, right? I'll pull the monthly chart up now. 1800. This is a perfect double top looking scenario on a monthly chart, which it hit 1873, the high, July 2011. If we put our Fibonacci retracement on it, which is how I've taught our followers, how do we look for a double top? It doesn't look like it's going to double top. It actually perfectly stopped on the 618. So now you're looking at an extension. And if it hit the 618, you're looking for extension probably up into the 3,500 mark. So position traders, Fibonacci believers, that's your mark. Fundamentally, we're going to need some more bad news, but it's not a bad. It's technically, that's what we're looking at, people. Obviously, I think some short-term traders, what I always ask myself is if we're hitting the highest it's ever been in recorded time, gold versus US dollar has just hit the resistance level that the highest it's ever been. Will there be buyers above it? Is there anyone buying it at that level? Logic would tell you no, but we're in some unprecedented times. Technically, it says it will, but where's all that money going to come from? So just like we saw the bearish move when they were pulling money out, whatever they were doing, whether it was to fund to buy low positions on what they thought would be a recovery, which it's now easy to see it was.
And that's what I did. That's what you did.
So if we're in a bullish run now on gold, and technically it could go up to 3,500, will that mean equities is going to take a dump right now? These are the things that I'm looking at, right? Is what equities spiked through COVID, and are those going to take that dump like we saw in Netflix? I mean, I'm kicking myself in the ass when Netflix had a bad earnings quarter and there's major sell-off all the way down to like 230, 214, I think was my buy target. I don't think it ever got there, but I think Netflix shot up all the way 1,200 during COVID. I mean, what a move. And then I think it wasn't a little sell-off last week. I actually shorted it. We talked about it on the show. Are those equities that got pumped up with the sell-off of gold in that March, are they going to suffer now to boost gold up to 3,400? That's the play. If we go to a daily chart, I'm actually looking at the blow by R2. Blew way past R2, and now I'm looking for that reversion of the mean play, which we've hit that resistance level. So you're going to find some bears.
Would you run a rollover strategy on a mineral pair?
No.
Why?
Only because, one, I haven't traded these pairs. So I don't know the distance in pips. And be honest with you, my rollover, what's worked for me for the last, I've been doing rollovers for 7 years now, isn't working at all right now. In this market, we're back to long trends. I'm not saying there's not pullbacks, but they're not happening in the same pips. I've calculated over back testing. Each pair typically has a certain distance of pips before I can start looking for pullbacks.
Do you think
those are stretching now?
Do you think that could be attributed to maybe fundamentals having more of an impact?
Definitely.
To technicals? It's weighted more towards fundamentals than it has been in the last year?
Yeah. I
think it was a year ago?
Fundamentals are driving right now. Currency markets. They've always been a major driver in equities.
Sure.
Let's just face it. There's a lot more fundamentals to equities. Each stock has, average daily volume, how much market cap they have.
But that's different now because fundamentals are instantly available to everybody. Whereas even when we were kids, you waited a day.
Right.
Or you got the evening paper.
Well, even in early 90s to mid 90s, traders were still trading on like daily charts.
What the hell did I just say?
I know.
All right.
I'm supporting your saying.
48 episodes in, you finally support me.
Technology took over. It's just like now you're competing against algos as a trader. And there's a lot of people saying, well, they should be banned. The real traders just say, well, it's just another hurdle. The markets always change. The ways people trade always change. It's interesting because that book I'm reading, One Good Trade by Mike Bellafiore, Bella as he's nicknamed, talks about this specifically in a whole chapter where he's talking to his peers, he's talking to other traders, and they're like, yeah, these damn algos. And he just simply says, well, you got to learn how to beat them. He's like, they're just really smart kids, know great math, but they're not experienced traders. So when you pick up on what these algos are doing, you just pick up on it. For instance, a example he talks about is there's an algo, a very popular algo out there, designed for a very fundamental support play trade, right? And he talks about it where price hits a support level and it breaks through that support level. You short it. It breaks through a level, you short it. Well, the algo instantly buys it. But they don't have enough gas in the tank to truly move that market.
What do you mean gas in the tank?
Capital.
They're not taking a big enough position?
Right. They're taking big enough positions to try to fake out those intraday traders because, like I was telling you before we started recording, they have super tight stop losses. They get in 20 cent change, they're out. So this algo is designed, plots a support level or a resistance level, waits for price to break it, and they instantly, they're taking on trading as if the emotional of all the day traders, right? Oh, just broke. I know they're shorting it. So I'm going to buy it and push price up 20 cents higher. They're all going to close. Well, it might have worked a few times, but if you're fast and you adapt and you can see this happening to you, say a week, you go, all right, I'm going to let it break, let these dumbasses buy it, and then pound them after it moves up 20 cents, right? Because now they're in the buy trade. They're not trading for the long haul. They just are trying to snack up everyone's quick day trade. Also, you got the whales in the market, the hedge funds, the institutions. Well, they trade based on fundamental technical analysis. So a support line break, these guys are putting these small algo positions on, And then here comes the whale, throws in $100 million, a million share short because they have that capital. I mean, some of these institutional traders have $50 million balance, right? You're hammered. So he has a whole chapter where he talks about you just got to learn how to beat these algos. We can sit there and bitch about them and cry and they're not following the rules and they're messing everything up. Well, it's just how it goes. Just like when I was a plumber. We got this shit called PEX. You're going to use it now. What? What the fuck? This is bullshit.
Is that like a new blackjack player who sits down and doesn't split when he's supposed to split? Is it the same thing? And then all the other players at the table get really pissed at him?
Yeah. The real players, they don't get pissed. They just go, I mean, the market just changed. Yes, you could sit there and go, well, fuck, dealer is supposed to get that card and you got it. You fucked it all up. It's all about adapting.
Why is gold so valuable?
Well, it's revered as the go-to if currency. Let's just face it. Millions and millions of years, gold, silver, platinum, these things we would mine. Someone had to work for it, find it, mill it, and form it. Gave it value. And up until the Nixon era, every dollar or every note was backed by gold.
Which was called the gold standard.
Right. That put a hamper on how many bills we could print.
Did it hedge inflation?
I think it did, and it kept things in line. This massive amount of debt we've accumulated would have never happened.
Right, because we wouldn't have had the gold to back it.
However, one can argue we may not have, we won't know now, have accelerated economically and technologically as we have since we've detached ourselves from the gold standard, right? And that's the big arguing point.
It hurts speculation.
Right. Let's just face it. We live as humans, most humans. There's still some countries in areas of the world that are far behind the rest of us, mostly because of communist regimes and people that were put in power want to keep the power. We could go down that rabbit hole in a different show. But we've excelled massively since we've detached ourselves and we were able to make credit and all these tools that we've been able to produce economically to create value out of thin air.
One of the things I love about gold is that, as you said, it is a limited resource. And one of the things that makes it, or several things that make it valuable, are it conducts electricity well.
Right.
It's tangible. You can actually physically hold it. It's a thing. It's easy to move. Once you form it, once you smelt it and then you form it, it's easy to move. It's heavy.
I love that word, by the way.
Smelt.
Smelting.
Which means you can divide it and you can combine it and then you can divide it again, right? And as we discussed, it gives musicians something to wear. And it's shining and it's pretty. It's valuable because we determine
anywhere
it's
you go in the world, gold has a value.
Because we determine it's valuable.
Now, I'm guessing, I've theorized this throughout my life, quite actually. If economically and socially, everything we know goes to shit, and we go back to 200 years.
Barter economy?
Right. Will gold still have a value? Will it become that base currency like it was in the 1600s?
Yes.
Or in that time, is it skills are valuable?
Well, you have to pay for the skills. How are you going to pay for the skills?
With the chickens I got chickens. Uh-huh. You know how to build a...
But you can't transport a truckload of chickens as easily as you can a truckload of gold.
But you think for a small time, right? No one would trust, I don't care about your gold or silver. Or would it be instantly we're back to, well, this worked in the past. Here's my silver dollars. You give me some chickens. will easily go back to some sort of thing you could put in your hands.
Well, that's why you have currency, right? You have currency because it represents a value that is perceived that everybody accepts the rules of that value.
Right.
Right? Which is why back in the day you had emperors with their stamped coins, knowing that it was base gold. And that's where bits come from. Did you know that?
Right.
So gold, silver, it breaks up into bits. A bit was typically an eighth of a coin because some things weren't worth a full coin, right? A pig might be worth a full coin, whereas a chicken might be worth a bit. But you can't... It's so hard. A bit.
Sounds like a British term. Give me a bit.
Yeah. I'll have a bit of that over there. Yeah. But that's why we have these currencies, and that's why we have these tangible, limited resources, these refined minerals, because they represent a value that is larger than the weight that they carry.
Yeah, but...
Which is what the cocaine runners ran into trouble with. It's so difficult to move all that cash because a brick of cocaine, a kilo of cocaine... is worth
250 grand versus
right. Well, a kilo
it takes up more volume than the cocaine to bring it in.
Correct, and that was the major problem that they had. That's why they're burying cash.
Well, that's why.
Bitcoin. But because cash is so much more transferable than cocaine, you have to have both, and you have to have a means of getting and distributing both. Well, that's how it is with gold and silver. It represents a value that, based on rules that everybody accepts.
Right, but in the very midst of turmoil, let's just say 5 nuclear bombs go off around the world tonight. There's no power. There's no cell phones. 2 billion people died.
At that point, hope for a better future.
Is there a barter system?
Yes.
That next week?
Yes. The hope for the better future, the long-term play, will make those minerals valuable again.
I believe you.
Well, you should, because I'm right.
I'm just thinking like that very moment.
Yeah.
Right? Like, wow, dude, you got water. Because at first we're still going to be in that help your neighbor mode. Then quickly it's going to turn into, I can't help everyone. So screw you mode. Then it will turn into, well, I need something from someone else. Do I give them something I have?
Or do I just take it?
Do I just take it? Or I have gold? Because quite honestly, I don't know. With 6 billion people knocked down to 4 billion people in the world because of this catastrophe, is there enough gold anymore?
Well, at some point, the gold's going to run out, isn't it? You can't mine it forever. That's why it's called a limited resource.
Yeah, and would we have the keys to Fort Knox to get the world's largest gold storage?
But none of that matters if you're hungry. You don't care.
Right. So how long and what turns into that? I think skills.
Yes, right? But you have to pay for those skills somehow. You can pay for this. See, it all comes down to abundance, doesn't it? You can pay for the skills with food, but once you have enough food, you want to be paid in something else. Right. Which is easily transferable to something that's more valuable to you. Correct.
So quickly, it has to turn into some sort of currency, especially with the history we have.
Because of a handful of that currency represents so many months of food and water and oil, let's say.
How long?
It's concentrating value.
How long before the penny no longer exists?
Oh, that's coming very quickly. In fact, I know that the Mint has already had discussions about that.
Well, the whole push for a cashless society, all the signs I see around here is, the Mint's not pressing coins, so we're not paying. And I'm like, well, keep the coins.
Right. Because remember,
that's a shitty excuse for not taking my $100 bill.
With a digital currency, the government can not only track your spending, but they can also manipulate the value of that currency.
Right. In a push of a button.
Correct. On a whim.
Right. Only reason why you'd be supporting a cashless society is for control. There's really no other reason other than, hey, Clayton, you bought a couch 5 years ago. Now you're selling it on eBay and you made $300.
Where's our tax?
We're going to let you get away with $1,000 a year of it. Even though I bought that couch with what little you let me have after the paycheck.
And that's where the barter comes back.
And I paid 7% sales tax. So then, they're going to start going, wait a minute, we want at least sales tax on that couch.
And now you're exchanging wood for couches.
Well, or Bitcoin or some black market. It's just, it's a slippery slope. So let's talk about gold's little brother, silver.
Little fella. Silver, which is XAUUSD.
He's always on the second level of the podium.
Well, he's a different periodic symbol, isn't he? So AU is gold, right? And AG is silver. And you didn't believe me earlier when I told you that.
I'm pretty impressed that you tied the symbols
and
I
did that
the
instantly.
periodic table.
I did that instantly.
It makes sense, but you did pretty good.
Yeah, I do some things well. The reason it's valuable is it is used in industrial medicine because it's not a fan of microbes, which means it doesn't collect living things on it.
It's kind of like copper.
Right. It's also an incredible conductor, more so than copper, but it's also much more expensive than copper. Holds a crazy temperature range and acts as a catalyst for organic synthesis to prevent corrosion. So when you're making organic compounds, silver is a catalyst to make that process happen. And that's all the chemistry and biology you're going to get out of me tonight.
Yeah, I do remember some.
But it's valuable because it's just like that old example of an ingot of silver costs so much. And then you break it down, and then you break it down again, and now you start forming it. You're forming it into rod, and now you're threading it, or whatever you're doing with it. And every step of value that you add, every process.
Think of it, the more labor you put into it, the more expensive it gets.
Well, the more value that you add to it. Just working doesn't mean anything.
Processed.
Right. Every step in the process routing to get it from a raw material, which in this form would be a bar or an ingot, into something that a medical company can use, is adding value. And it might go up 10 times. Silver is used in all kinds of applications, and it's valuable because we make it valuable. Therefore, we trade it.
You know what's funny? Is I've never seen raw silver. Like you see those pan for gold, and these shows, gold rush. But silver, right? Like Silverton here in Colorado is obviously a very popular town, a little mountain town where they mine silver. But like I've never seen like raw silver ore like you see like at the Golden Nugget.
Well, you've never seen a raw diamond either.
On TV.
Right.
I could get the concept. But like even in movies and stuff, no one's made a movie about the silver miners and and you see the raw silver. Like is it dust like gold? Like can you pan for it in a river, or is it too heavy of a metal that it's only in clusters? It'd be awesome if someone who mines silver would write in and be like, yeah, dude, it's usually right under a bunch of black. Once you hit the black layer of filament, then the silver's below it.
Right after the charcoal?
Because, everything has a trait.
Right after the coal?
So when you're searching for it, if you find black bentonite, it's usually right below it. So we search for the bentonite veins. And silver is, it's just weird. As you were saying that, I've never seen raw silver. Now I got to take a trip to Silverton and see if there's a museum up there or something. It's like, because I grew up in a little farm town that was a coal mining town.
I didn't know that we had coal out here in Colorado.
Yeah, up in Frederick, Colorado, it's a coal mining community.
Oil as well.
Well, there's a lot of oil in northeastern Colorado.
And natural gas that sits on top of the well.
Right. Lots of oil operations going on out there. But it was originally a coal mining town. There was actually, when I was growing up, a few, abandoned coal mines with the little picket fence, do not enter. That, of course, we enter. Throw a beer bottle.
Sounds like a good drinking
Drop your
spot.
beer bottle down there.
As I said.
I dare you to go down there. But yeah, mining silver, mining copper. Mexico is big copper mining operation in China. And silver.
Chile is the same situation. Argentina.
It's funny because America has pretty much regulated themselves out of mining operations. They've paralyzed that whole industry. So now it's like are completely reliant on other countries' resources and manufacturing. And this whole COVID, especially in the medical device industry, we're realizing, shit, we don't make half the shit we use anymore.
We talked about that in March.
Right.
We talked about how supply chains were forced to reevaluate, or companies were forced to reevaluate their supply chains both vertically and horizontally.
Well, you remember 2016 Trump campaign. It was about bringing back the iron factories and a lot of these industries back to America. And, it caught a lot of flack over it, whether you're a Trump fan or not.
You have to be an American worker fan if you're an American.
Right. I mean, it's a polarizing idea. And, when you realize, well, we're going to mandate masks. Okay, well, who makes the masks? China. Shit. And then,
also the drug game.
Everyone stepped up and, there's a lot of underwear masks and people making masks out of their piles of T-shirts. And, someone's making a lot of money over this mask shit. I kind of wish the sewing machine I bought my ex-wife and...
Was it a swinger?
Yeah, it was a great one. It was like, this could be my new hobby. I got to have a sewing room.
It's Singer, right? Singer.
And that fucking thing sat on the shelf for years.
What color is it?
White. I kind of wish I would have learned because, when I was sitting at home, see this COVID thing, I'm going to take those 5,000 Crown Royal bags that I have laying that, you can't throw those away. It's what my Scrabble pieces are in. So you take those bags, you sell a bunch of masks, boom, entrepreneur. I know what you're going to say. You play Scrabble?
No, I was going to have a go at you about having Crown Royal bags.
Why? Because it's Canadian whiskey?
No, because that's something that people who don't really know what they're doing with whiskey do. And it's awkward to see. In fact, I don't know that you and I can talk anymore.
What? Keep Crown Royal bags?
Let's just say that there are more on my side of this than there are on your side.
Come on, dude. They're nice bags. And now there's Crown Royal Apple. So you got green and purple. So let's...
Hold on. Apple whiskey?
It's not that good. But,
of course it's not that good.
But there's bags.
Oh,
comes with it.
Is it green?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Like the Granny Smith apple.
Well, okay, dude. Just like when... I don't know if you were this way. But when I was coming up...
If it was the right way, I was that way.
After puberty, beer drinking age. Before 21. So you had to have a guy hook up that would risk his... buying beer opportunities to get you youngins beer.
Or a big fellow with a really good radio voice.
So, when I was 15, I was 152 pounds and had a beard. And in a tiny little town, just go in there and be like, yeah, how's the weather today?
I play football.
You're 21, right? I can remember going to liquor stores and be like, hey, you're 21, right? Yeah, all right. And then once you're in because it's the same dude working there all the time, we had it figured out. It's like, oh, Bob Connors is working the desk. We're in. Go walk. Hey, Bob, how's the weather? If it was any windier, we'd be in Alaska or Wyoming. Oh, battery's low. You go get your beer, and I used to buy a couple bottles of Boone's Farm in case some chicks came around. So that's the apple whiskey, dude.
I know what Boone's Farm is, dude. You might as well add Pucker at that stage.
Yeah, Pucker. So that's the Crown Royal Apple, is in case there's some girly dudes and some chicks that come over and we're doing shots of whiskey and like, well, I'll do the apple. So Silver Spike, it's little brother of the gold, tends to be very correlated with gold.
I called it out in the Telegram channel.
So Matt did. If the four of you that read his newsletter, because we can see his open rate. By the way, if you want his newsletter, go to allenfx.com, fill out the form. Matt and I don't send you a bunch of shit, but we do send you a newsletter that I will say That's pretty much 2 weeks ahead of every trend. So who knows? Maybe we'll be on CNBC pretty soon. Be like, hey, we've been reading your newsletter, and you're every 2 weeks. You guys talked about the silver spike. There's the silver spike. You guys talked about Boeing going to 170. There you go. So get your newsletter, and you might be on the next trade. What do you think is going to be in there this week?
I don't know. I haven't done my weekend research. It's usually a full Saturday event.
I'll give you a little. I think remember my theory on Bitcoin showing its ugly head.
Yes.
As the new safe haven. Well,
yes.
It's been on a bullish run. It's correlating itself with gold. Not as strong yet, but I see 10, maybe 11K in the near future on it. That would be my resistance level.
The goal of the newsletter is to provide 3-4 articles about what's going on and to simplify it into non-trader, non-nerd, non-economist terms. To provide a summary, provide a link to that article, and then a little Simpson snark at the end of it.
Which people love, by the way.
The 4 people who read it...
Or they will love.
The 4 people who read it definitely read it in my voice.
Yeah, it's kind of like, what's that? Our favorite newsletter.
Daily Brew.
The Daily Brew.
Morning Brew.
The Morning Brew.
Only mine's...
wittier and funnier.
Yes, because I don't live on top of each other with other people in Manhattan.
I will say the Morning Brew has gotten a little too political for me.
It's it's hard. I'm glad you observed that because it's a bummer.
Well, I to be honest, I used to promote it. I got a coffee mug.
Did you?
Well, I should. I never got it. Maybe it's because I switched addresses or something. I don't know. It turned too political for me. And like most media outlets, it's disgusting to me because media to me used to be, they would pride themselves on finding the truth, not just a saying. It did their due diligence.
When we cannot agree on the data, it is not about data. It's about politics.
Right. And it's just...
Think about what I just told you. If you tell me something and I find data that contradicts that, then the data's not right. Your source isn't right. My source isn't right. It's about politics at that point.
Right.
So just report what's happening and let me make up my own mind. But with our newsletter, I'm going to tell you what's happening, and then I'm going to tell you what I think. But it's very clear that that there's an opinion. This is what happened, and then this is how Matt sees it. And we also provide updates on what's going on with the day trading plumber, what's going on with the business, and your trading results.
Which have been pretty minimal. Gold keeps going up. Silver usually is a couple days behind it. So a really good play is, what did gold do today? Silver's going to do tomorrow. And
why do you think that is? Is there? I don't think it's correlated, but there's definitely a relationship there.
Well, let's just say if there's a run on gold, that means there is a fear in the dollar, right? Which we see in the currency markets and all of the pairs. The dollar's just been getting hammered. I actually thought this would be the week we'd see a little bit of turnaround, which I'm kind of seeing in the USCAD. You know, good old Canadian dollars, just the US dollar's like redheaded cousin. So that pair is always kind of like the first US pair to start to recover. So maybe next week the dollar. So it's almost timing perfect, right? Gold is hitting a strong resistance, just itching for a decent pullback. And the dollar on all pairs is looking bullish on a reversion mean play. But it's busting through all these support levels. So if you're a breakout trader, that is that push. Now, how long are all those bears on the dollar going to hold those positions? Because let's just face it, the US dollar is still the strongest economy in the world, still revered as the lead currency of all other currencies. It's only a matter of time. And like if you look at the euro US dollar on a daily or monthly chart and draw a trend line connecting the top of 2008, it's in a downward trend. We're testing that trend line right now. And that's usually the currency pair that kind of dictates dollar strength is the euro US dollar, because it's the two largest economies in the world. The euro's been crazily kicking ass. Now, don't get me wrong. The more you devalue the dollar, the less that debt is. There's a lot of economists that think devaluing the dollar is their best bet. The euro's in the same boat. They don't want the euro so strong either, because it hampers this recovery process. So what I'm seeing is a lot of countries right now are doing everything they can to stay under the radar and not have the strongest currency. So how do you play in those waters as a currency trader? It's a little bit different. Like we said at the beginning of the show, fundamentals are driving price more than technicals. So the plays that have worked for you in the past, technically, maybe lower your position size, pay a little bit more attention to the fundamentals, catch up on your global economic, call your old teacher back in high school on global economics and get freshened up on how copper mining can affect what country's currency.
Well, you finally did it. You've only been talking about it for a while. Finally got the courses done.
Yeah, I got the courses. Well, they've been done. I just had to get the website built and then actually get them launched and get it tied to a payout. You know, there's a lot of shit that goes on behind the scenes that us, plumbers turned into traders are like, hey, I want to sell hats online, right? You just get a cockamamie idea. And when you start to put all the pieces together, it's a process. But yeah, we launched it. We got a few sales. People are actually buying it. Haven't got any feedback on the course material itself yet, but we got some feedback on the site layout and the goofy videos I have on there. But I'm excited. I went through a little bit of a period where we all do as entrepreneurs where it's like, it's not good enough. People are going to buy it and hate me. I still have this, this little bit of, I'm just another douchebag putting courses out there. So as I move into the marketing of it, I really want to focus on, you're buying me, right? Like if you buy my course, I'm going to be there every step of the way. You can call me, right? I think one of the things I'm going to really drive on is, hey, that other guy's course, does he have a cell phone number after you buy it? Does he have a button where before you buy it, you can actually talk to him? Will he tell you he's struggling with his own accounts right now? Will he tell you how he's going to get out of that? I mean, these are the core things that I truly believe if you're going to sell people something, you need to do. There's no shortcuts, just like in trading. You could get lucky 5 times in a row. You could put on Hail Mary trades as you go to sleep so you don't have to watch the drawdown go against you and then come back while you're sleeping. There's all these things. But to do it right, to be in the game for a long time, you got to do it the hard way. And, that's what's delayed getting the courses out. But they're out. You're interested in looking at the courses, go directly to the website I so graciously built. It's www.forex1%club.com. And the 1 is the number 1. Don't spell it out. Us dyslexic plumbers, any chance we get, we use a number. We don't spell it out. So again, forex1%club.com. I'll have Matt put a link in the show notes. All right, so as I wrap up this week's episode, I want to remind you guys, although I'm a big fan of becoming an expert at one thing, but when the markets or what you're selling or plumbing materials change, you have to adapt. And you can still be focused on that one thing, but you have to always have your head on a swivel, just like I'm delving into equities trading. I'm trying to see if there's a correlation between what I've learned the last 10 years in Forex with equities. And I'm finding There's some similarities and there's a lot of differences. So as you're looking at gold or silver as a buy, just remember when your grandma calls you and says, man, I really wish I would have bought gold last week. I'm going to buy some this week. You got to start thinking that's what the herd's doing. And is it time to short? Maybe not long term, but has that run ended?
Thank you very much for listening. Please join us next week.
Over and out.
If you'd like to learn more about Clayton signals, please visit www.alrfx.com. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram at OFPMatt.